Marcus from Veritas Immigration Law. We are an immigration-only law firm located in Southern Florida with offices in Naples, Orlando, Miami, and West Palm Beach. As you may know, we typically handle a lot of treaty trader and treaty investor visas for folks who are coming to the United States to start their businesses, to move their life and their family and their businesses here to the United States. We are starting session number 2 of our question and answers, and I won't spend too much time doing the introduction here, so we will just jump into the first question. Okay. Okay, first question. Hi, I'm worried about my renewal. Is it hard to renew an E2 visa? Um, so the answer to this is it depends. In general, like procedurally, no, it's not that hard. But it's going to depend on basically like it's going to depend on how your business is doing and if you're still meeting all the requirements for the E2 visa. So we're talking about is it still meeting all the requirements of marginality? Is it still producing income? Is it still meeting the ownership requirements? Have there been any changes in ownership structure of your business? Um, we'll just need to show that the business is basically just like succeeding, right? That it's flourishing. It doesn't need to be doing like $1 billion a year in business, but it just needs to be meeting the E2 requirements. The same ones that you use to apply for the visa. So as long as you're still meeting the requirements, it shouldn't be hard. But if you're not meeting the requirements, then yeah, it might be more challenging. So it just depends. Let's go to the next one. Oops. What is the lowest cost business you can start on an E2 visa? I don't know what is the lowest cost. As you may know, the regulations don't require any particular amount of money to invest in the business. It's kind of left open to interpretation. It's left open, well, not to interpretation, but it's left open to the proportionality test, right? The substantiality of requirement. So it just depends what kind of business you're starting. There's a lot of stuff out on the internet, and a lot of, I think a lot of attorneys tell people that you need to invest like somewhere around $100,000. And although that's a good investment for a lot of businesses, I don't really think you. I don't think that is like the threshold. Um, I've seen much lower investments than $100,000 succeed with an E2 visa, and it just depends on your business model. So if you're looking to start up kind of a lower cost business, there's a lot of different options that you can do. But this isn't, this isn't, the E2 is an investment centered analysis. So there does need to be an investment of money, right? And so this is a hard question to answer because I don't know what the lowest cost business is. It just depends on you and what you want to do and the structure of what you of your business plan. That's going to be an important part. So if money is an issue or that's something that you're kind of concerned about, I would really recommend that you work with an attorney because even though you might spend some money on an attorney, if you're not planning to invest, probably somewhere at least like 50,000, say, so somewhere around there, then you want to have a really careful application put together and just to ensure that the type of business and the amount that you're investing kind of makes sense and maximizes your chance of approval. So sorry, I can't really give like a more clear answer than that, but I don't know what the lowest cost business is. Maybe something that's kind of um, doesn't require a lot of like inventory or a lot of supplies. Maybe you can do some stuff on the computer or online. But at the same time, you don't want it to be like fully online, just remote work, because you have to have some kind of connection, physical connection to the United States, in my opinion. So, some people have started, I'm aware of some people starting, marketing firms or consulting firms where they do a lot of stuff online. But you just want to be careful. It just depends on what you want to do. So this is something where you really need to consult with an attorney, I think. Okay, let's go to the next one. I need to get an EIN as soon as possible. Would it work if my son, who is here on an F1, used his social security number to get the EIN? My B2 runs out soon. Does that mean my son needs to own some of the business? Okay. So you're here as a visitor, and it sounds like I'm assuming you've already incorporated your business, because that's the first thing that you need to do before you can get an EIN, right? You got to form your business and incorporate it in the state that you're living. So the good news for you is you don't need a social security number to get an EIN. Well, let me be clear. You specifically don't need to have a social security number. Um, One of the ways that we typically get around this is you can apply for an EIN number online through the IRS, and you would just want to probably use an attorney to act as a third party designee, um, to input a social security number, and that's the fastest way to get your EIN. So I don't recommend that you send it in by paper. You can actually do it online and uh, use an attorney to act as a third party designee to obtain that for you. Okay. Um, if your son does it, he wouldn't need to own some of your business. Um, I suppose he could potentially act as a third party designee, but I think it's better to use an attorney to do that. I am an E2 dependent spouse. Do I need to apply for my employment authorization first to get, no. Do I need to apply for my employment authorization first to get a social security number? My E2 status was changed from student status. Um, you don't need to apply for employment authorization. And the reason is because as an E2 dependent, you should be authorized to work incident to your status. So let me just explain what that means. Once you have a new I-94. So your status has changed, it's approved. If you're an E2 dependent spouse, you should have a new I-94 that it categorizes you as an E2 dependent. And the way that it appears on your I-94 is E2 and then the letter S, E2S. And that's exactly how it needs to read in order for you to be automatically approved to work. Okay, so if as and sometimes the immigration officials like Border Patrol or even USCIS might screw that up. They don't. I've seen that happen before, especially with Customs and Border Protection. They'll admit an E2 dependent spouse and it'll just say like E2, but it won't say E2S. And it needs to specifically say E2S in order for you to be authorized to work. Okay, so if it says that, then you don't have to you don't have to do any extra steps to get your employment authorization. You can just go and work. And that should also be sufficient for you to go to the Social Security Administration and get a Social Security number. Okay. Again, sometimes they'll walk into the Social Security Administration with their I-94 that says E2S, and the person still won't know what to do, they'll. It's probably not something they see a lot, so they just don't know what to do. But the important thing to know is that if it says E2S on your I-94, that's enough to get a Social Security number. So So what you need to do is check your I-94 and make sure that it says E2S, and maybe have an attorney like write a little like one-page letter that you can uh, take in, when you go to the Social Security Administration to apply for your Social Security number, just so that the officer or the employee at the Social Security Administration knows what to do, or at least give them some instruction, if they're confused. So I hope that's clear. Hi, I need help on moving money. Can I transfer money from my Canadian checking account to Wise Personal, and then from Wise Personal to US banking to US Wise Business account, from there US Wise Business account to US Business Bank account? If it is possible, how to show all these to USCIS? Um, so Wise is, I'm not super familiar with Wise, but I think it's like just like a money transferring app. But if you're from Canada, I don't think that's necessary to do all that. If I was, your attorney, or I was advising you, just um, just wire the money from your Canadian checking account directly to the US business bank account. That should be fine. And that's going to make it way easier to track the money, right? If you're going from into like four different accounts, that's kind of a nightmare to keep track of. So I think that's totally unnecessary. I'm sure you can just go to your Canadian bank and just wire it directly to your US business bank account. If you've got all that set up, yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would advise you to do. Hi, looking for some guidance. I'm in the process of starting a business and will be applying for the E2 visa shortly. My question is, can I spend money on the business prior to the business being registered? Question two, the money spent on the business, will it be counted towards my visa application? And can I write it off as a business expense once business is registered? Thank you in advance. Okay, so you're in the process of starting a business and you're wondering if you can spend money on the business prior to the business being registered. And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, you have to do that. You should do that. That's part of the requirement. You have to invest money into the business before you apply for the visa. So, so yes, not only it's not like permissive, like can I, but you should. You absolutely should. Question two, the money spent on the business, will it be counted towards my visa application? Yes. Anything that you spend on the business, you should keep track of. Keep very clear records of all the money that you're spending. So the answer is yes, it will count. And can I write it off as a business expense once the business is registered? So that's a question for an accountant. Um, that's a question for an accountant. It's going to depend on what kind of expense it is, I guess, but generally, business expenses can be deducted. So it just depends what it is. That's not my area of expertise. You'll have to talk to a good accountant, but I'm optimistic that some of your business expenses can be potentially deducted on your taxes. Hi there, I'm looking to acquire an existing business with great financial history within the HVAC sector in New York City. Are there any restrictions to this type of business for E2 to be applicants? Thanks in advance. No, no restrictions. The business has a great financial history. I think you should go for it. I don't think, I mean, there's nothing in what you're saying here that would make me think that to hesitate. So yeah, if you can acquire a business that's doing really well, that should make it fairly simple to apply for your E2. How can a marketing company put their investment at risk? Well, so putting your money at risk, as you're sounds like you're aware, is one of the kind of core uh, requirements of getting the E2 visa. So when we're talking specifically about a marketing company, the analysis really isn't too different than it is for any other company, in my opinion. So a marketing company possibly isn't going to have like super high startup costs, right? So I mean, maybe I don't know what your setup is, but I'm guessing that it's kind of like a lower startup cost for that kind of a company. So, and I'm guessing that's kind of what's driving the question. How am I supposed to put my money at risk? So the way that you do that is just by spending it and keeping track of everything that you're buying. So, so if you've started your marketing company, presumably you would have had to, like buy a computer or buy software or buy an office. Maybe you have an employee that you're paying. There's lots of starting a business is challenging and there's a lot that goes into it. And so everything that you're doing to start your business, you're spending money, keep track of that. And that's showing that once you've spent money, it's at risk. Um, so another way that you do this is sometimes people they'll have, a bunch of money that they want to put into their business, but they haven't spent all of it. And one of the ways that you can show that your money is at risk is by putting your funds like in a neutral place, like in an escrow or something like that, to show that it's like out of your control, it's out of your hands. And that in that sense, um, once your E2 gets approved, then you will use the money to spend on the business. There's different ways you can do this. Um, but typically, I mean, the most risky thing to do is just to spend it, right? Because then it's gone. You've lost it. Some people take out loans, and that's arguably at risk because if you've signed a promissory note, for example, then you'd have to pay the money back. So that's arguably at risk. So there's lots of different things you can do, but typically, just showing that you started your business and you've spent the money shows that it's at risk. I have a manufacturing business in Bangladesh. Can I get E2 visa to own a gas station in USA? Uh, so yes, you can. Um, I've worked with some people from Bangladesh before, and one of the challenging things work in with Bangladesh specifically is that it's hard for you guys to transfer money out of the country. There's like you guys have a central bank, and when you try to transfer money out into the United States, I mean you can do it, but there's like a huge tax. So sometimes people have to find another way to get the investment funds here. Um, so that's kind of one issue. And then the other issue is that the validity period for the E2 visa for folks from Bangladesh is really short. It's like I forget, it's just like 3 months or something like that. So so there's a couple things with um, getting an E2 from Bangladesh that can be a little bit more challenging than from other places. But to answer your question, the answer is yes. I mean, you can get an E2 visa if you can acquire a gas station. There's no restriction on the type of business. You can really, the E2 is very flexible. You can start or purchase almost any kind of business anywhere in the United States. As long as you're meeting all the regulations and all the requirements, you can get the E2 visa. Um, so let's go on to the next one. Hi there, I want to start a marketing business and apply for an E2. What should I spend money at risk on? Any help or advice would be appreciated. What should I spend money at risk on? This is almost exactly like the other question. So I don't really want to like repeat myself too much, but you want to, yeah, I mean, you got to spend money on your business. You got to, what are your startup costs? Um, these are things that you should kind of already know. If you're starting a business, you should kind of have an idea of like, what do you need to do? What supplies do you need? Um, what do other marketing businesses do? What specific kind of marketing are you planning to do? Who are your clients going to be? How are you going to find those clients? And talk to people maybe who've already done it. And so, I mean, there's certain things that you're just absolutely going to need, right? Like a phone, a computer, internet, an office, things like this. Um, and so, once you start acquiring those things, you start to see how easy it is to put money at risk and to spend money on your business. Um, so I am an E2 visa holder. Can I do other business or not? Um, hmm. I guess I don't really know exactly what you mean. If you're if you're asking, can you do other business in the United States? The answer is no. I mean, when you have an E2 visa, your work has to be restricted to your E2 enterprise, right? So that's the only work that you can do. You're not authorized to go and work anywhere you want. Um, I suppose that you could have businesses, maybe back in your home country or something, but as far as here in the United States, you're restricted to only working on your E2 visa. So I guess I'm just not really clear exactly what the question is. If the question is, can I work somewhere else here in the United States? The answer is no. I'm Canadian. Do I have to have the COVID vaccine for getting the E2? No, you do not. I get that question all the time. Um, do you know how to get financial aid or scholarships for E2 Sun with no SSN? Well, in Florida, if you are, so Florida is where we're located, and the answer is that you can apply for scholarships here with an E2. I think you get in-state tuition um, if if you have an E2 in Florida. So that means that you would get the tuition of an in-state resident. Um, Financial aid or scholarships, I'm pretty sure you can apply for scholarships, but I guess I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you on that. But I'm pretty sure that you get in-state tuition. I don't see why you couldn't apply for scholarships with no social security number. So that's kind of one of the disadvantages, I guess, if there is, of the E2 visa. Your E2 dependent children won't be able to get a social security number. So there's not going to be a way for him to get that. Good day. If part of the investment is paid from a personal account because the company is still being established, will the Immigration Service offset it? Will the Immigration Service offset it? I I don't know what you mean by offset it, but I guess if what you're asking is uh, will it count towards your investment? The answer is yes. I think that's what you're asking. So even though it's coming from your personal account, you can still use that. That will still add into your overall investment into the substantiality requirement. So just keep track of everything. It'll be fine. Hi everyone. Can I go on a B1 B2 and start a business in USA? and change of status to E2. So yes, you can. That's what a lot of people do. If you're applying for your B1, B2 at an embassy, though, I wouldn't tell the visa officer that that's what you're doing. Because if they think that you're coming here with the intention to stay, then they may not approve you for a visitor visa. So, but when you're here on a visitor visa, there's um, it's you can definitely incorporate a business and get the business running. There's there's nothing wrong with doing that. A lot of people do that. They come here on a B1, B2, or an ESTA and start the business. How can you be running your business before acquiring the visa if you don't have employees yet and you aren't able to work in the US prior to visa acquisition? Yep, this is a very common question. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Just it's going to depend on you and what kind of business and uh, what your situation, your immigration situation is. So some people will say you can, if you're able to kind of run the business remotely on a temporary basis, you can come to the United States on a visitor visa or an ESTA and get the business set up and then kind of start operating it, maybe trying to start finding clients or whatever it is you need to start making money. Um, or if you can find somebody who that lives in the United States that um, can live here and kind of help you get the business going while you're back home applying for the visa, that's fine too. There's a few different things. You might need to be a little creative to get it up and running, but it's very possible to do. Lots of people do it, and having an attorney here, a relationship with an attorney here in the United States, can also help in terms of getting your business, incorporated and formalized, getting your EIN, your bank accounts, and that kind of stuff. Is that the last one? Let's see. Yeah, that's the last one. Okay, that's all for today, guys. I'll see you on the next video.